Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk about a number of things. I want to talk about the economy, about immigration, about the water companies, and also about the favourite to become the next leader of the Conservative Party. Now, as far as the economy is concerned, we all know that the health service needs a lot more money. They need more doctors, more nurses, need more equipment, and everything's getting more expensive all the time, and they need more medicines, which are also getting expensive. Also, we're an ageing population, so as more and more of us get older and older, we need more and more medical attention. Likewise with care. The care sector is in a terrible mess. Lots of care homes are closing down and so on. There just aren't enough people to do the work to look after people in their old age. We know that schools need more money. We know that just about everything needs more money. The local authorities need more money. We know that the transport needs more money. Everywhere you look, it's money, money, money. Money is the key to everything. And the only way you really generate any money is to expand the economy. And so economic activity is the absolute key to everything. And without a successful economy, nothing else will follow. We'll just have continuing crisis of shortage of funds. And politicians can go on television all the time saying as much as they like about they're going to spend money on this, spend money on that, especially when they try to get elected. Oh, they're going to spend so much money. But if the money isn't there, you can't spend it. And what Brexit did, and I'm sorry to mention Brexit, but what Brexit did, it just took a sledgehammer to our economy. At a stroke, it meant that small and medium-sized firms who for years and years and years have depended upon the EU as a huge market right next door are no longer able to supply that market. That market is gone to small and medium-sized businesses, which means that starting a business and starting to grow is very, very difficult without that market, because where else do you export to? If you're going to export to Paraguay, you've got to start sending out container loads. You can't send a couple of packages as you used to be able to do to Belgium or to France or whatever. So the economy has been really seriously damaged by Brexit, and also the other consequence, of course, was that so many EU workers, people from the EU who came here very often just temporarily, have gone home and are not coming back because they can't come back really, even if they wanted to, and they probably don't want to. And so the question then is, how do you grow the economy? And politicians have no idea. We've got a government front bench. There's nobody there. I think there's the Scottish secretary, and I think he started a business. He's hiring out tents or something. He's done very well, made lots of money. Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, he had a whole load of failed small businesses, and then he happened to hit on one that was successful, made a load of money, and he's therefore got some experience in running businesses. That's it, really. And Grant Shapps, we all know about his business history. So there's nobody really on the front bench of the Conservative Party who knows anything about business. On the Labour side, I don't think there's a single person who's had a day's business experience in their lives. Know nothing about it. So they really don't have a clue. And you only have to listen to what they both have to say. They realise that we have to grow the economy in order to pay for all these things we want to pay for. But this is one of Sunak's pledges, his 5 pledges that he repeats ad nauseum every time he opens his mouth. He says we will grow the economy, creating better paid jobs and opportunity right across the country. You see, it's quite easy to say it. Easy to say it. I'm going to get rich by winning the lottery. Ever so easy. But how's he going to do it? How's he going to do it? The economy is on its knees. No one's investing in this country. Who's going to come and invest in here? And we're not exporting. And everywhere you look, businesses are in trouble. And because of the cost of living crisis, because of high taxes, business activity is very restricted at the moment. People haven't got the money to spend. The leader of the Labour Party, who I don't mention his name for fear of losing hundreds of subscribers and whatever, he says this is how Labour are going to do it. They're going to secure the highest sustained growth in the G7 with good jobs and productivity growth in every part of the country. So we're now the only country in the G20 that has an economy which is shrinking. We're going to go overtake all those countries, get right to the top. We're going to overtake Germany, Japan, America, France and Italy, right to the top. And we're going to stay there. Stay there. Doesn't say how. when you look around this country at the moment and you see just how desperate things are, you just look around, go to town centres and talk to people and see how everybody's struggling, everybody's grumbling about the government, everybody's anxious about the future. And you think, why would anybody stay here if they can go? And I was thinking back to Priti Patel when she was Home Secretary just after Brexit, and she these were the days we're talking about attracting the brightest and the best of the UK. She gave a speech in which she mentioned actually that she particularly wanted to attract Nobel Prize winners. That was some of the sort of brightest and best that it was assumed were queuing up to come here. And so she started some special scheme. She offered 500 visas for the brightest and the best, the Nobel Prize winners to come to this country and take advantage of this. It's paradise, really. And the number of applications for those special visas for the brightest and best was 0. Nobody wanted to come here. I mean, there's a big world out there. There are a lot of really competitive, dynamic and successful countries and economies you can go and live and work in if you are qualified or you're capable. I have 2 sons, and they're both in their early 40s. They both went to a very good school. They both went to very good universities, good degrees, and they both got very good jobs. My eldest son is, as I speak, is in Dubai at the moment, completing his application for permanent residence. He's going to move there permanently. My youngest son, in 2 weeks' time, is going to Bangkok, where he's doing exactly the same. He's already put his papers in for permanent residence. And why not? I mean, they both say to me, there's nothing here. There's nothing to stay for. This xenophobic little country that's just going down the pan, with politicians lying to us day and night, no one having the slightest idea of how we're going to recover. Why stay when you can go to other countries that are more dynamic, where you've got a future? They have a friend who's a doctor. He's a very highly qualified doctor. He works at one of the big hospitals in London. He's a child psychologist or psychiatrist, something of a difference. Very highly qualified, very well known. He and his children and his wife are moving to Australia. And why wouldn't they? And so far from all the brightest and the best in the world queuing up to come here to this sorry little, sad little, miserable country, people are flooding out. Of course they will. We know, for example, that of all the doctors that are trained here at the moment, at least 4.5% go abroad immediately they're qualified. It does not to mention all the thousands and thousands of doctors who are just leaving the profession anyway because of stress and strain and so on. And incidentally, on Twitter last week, I noticed lots and lots of adverts. The same advert came on lots and lots of times, and it was the strapline was made in Germany. It said, it was the German government. It said, if you're qualified, you have a qualification, and you'd like to come and live and work in Germany, apply. So they're going to pick off our brightest and best. They can see we're a basket case. They can see that anybody here has got no future. And how long is it going to be before the French are going to be doing the same, or the Italians? Or they're all going to be poaching our best, because there are nicer places to go where you've got more of a chance to get on. And I don't think this is something that people have really considered. I don't think people really realise, young people, especially if they're ambitious and they want to get on, it's the ambitious ones that are going to get on. They're the ones who are going to go. I'm just going to say, sod it. Why should we live in this misery? Everything's so expensive, where taxes are so high, where businesses are closing down, pubs and clubs and restaurants, everything's closing down, everything's so depressing. Why stay? And this is all because of Brexit. And at the same time, we've got the question of immigration, haven't we? The government is obsessed with stopping people coming in these little boats. Now, I'll tell you something that is absolutely true. I was speaking to a friend of mine yesterday, somebody I've known a very long time, and he was talking about a friend of his who's got a construction business. And he said he got a new worker who just arrived a couple of days ago, and he was working. He was a really, really good worker. He was really happy with him. And he'd come from a country outside of the EU. I don't want to mention which country, but he'd come from a country outside of the EU. And I said, how did he get on for getting a visa? He said, oh, he didn't get a visa. So I said, well, did he come in a boat? Think to myself, if they come across in a boat, they get arrested immediately, put on a bus and taken off to prison or wherever they take them. So I thought, so I said, how did he come in a boat? He said, no, he came in a lorry. He said, thousands are coming in the lorries. He said, you just get in the back of the lorry. And of course, we have absolutely no border controls. Now, whether thousands come in or not, I don't know. But if a lorry just arrives, the boat docks in Dover and the lorry just drives off and goes off and nobody even looks at it, fair chance that quite a lot of them have got people in them. Might even have guns in them, might have drugs in them, who knows what they might have in them, because we don't have any border controls because we haven't got round to it yet. It's only 7 years since the referendum, and it's only 3 years since we left the EU, so obviously it's a bit early, even though the EU started imposing controls on the very first day that we left. Now, in addition to people coming here in the backs of lorries, of course, we've got all these people who come here on these temporary work visas now, because having got rid of all these dreadful European people who did so much to damage our economy, and they used to come here and work and go home again, and we're all perfectly well behaved, we're now getting people from all over the world. Particularly, apparently, the main countries they're coming from are India, Nigeria, Pakistan, and the Philippines, and they come here, they have to get a visa, which costs them £750. They have to get health insurance, which costs them £750, and they have to have £1,000 in the bank to show they can survive when they first get here. A lot of them come here, and of course they only come here in order to make a lot of money and send it back home to their countries which are much poorer. A lot of them are being badly treated, it would appear. There were, I think, 4,700 reported cases of slavery in the UK last year, which is quite staggering. No doubt involving a lot of these temporary immigrants, people who are coming here to work. A lot of them, and there was a famous case last year of Vietnamese who came to pick vegetables in Lincolnshire instead of the Romanians, who came here and they found there wasn't as much work as they'd been promised, and they hadn't got the money to buy their airfare to go home, and a lot of them went straight into the black economy. It's very easy, the black economy these days. I personally know of dozens and dozens, probably hundreds of people in London working in businesses who are working in the black economy who shouldn't be here and shouldn't be earning. In every case, it's depriving the country of taxes and so on, and it's not doing anybody any good. But that's it. That's just one of the consequences. If you don't want Europeans here, well, then you've got to get somebody else. You get somebody else from somewhere else, from all around the world. Then you have to accept that some of them won't necessarily remain here legally. We decided that many years ago that we'd sell the water companies, we'd privatise them. We did the same with gas, with electricity, and with the railways. So private shareholders own all those utilities. Case of railways, well, you could say we could live without the railways. Without gas, you could say we could just about live without gas. Electricity, you probably couldn't. But water, you can't live without water. We all need water. We all absolutely depend for our lives upon water. And we can't really be bathing in Evian, I don't think. So water is an absolutely essential utility. And we've sold it all off. And last year, the water companies, the year before last, they paid out dividends of £540 million. So that's £540 million which private shareholders would have received of the money we're paying for our water supplies. Last year, it went up 1.4 billion. That's how much was paid out in dividends to foreigners, largely foreigners who own our water companies. That's equivalent to £80 or more for every household in the country. So when you pay your water bill, £80, that is going to some shareholder somewhere. Now, I happen to live in the Thames Water area, and I just thought I'd have a look at the ownership of Thames Water. It's quite interesting. 32% of it belongs to Canadians. 10% belongs to somebody or other in Abu Dhabi. 9% belongs to another Canadian organisation or company or individual. 9% belongs to the Chinese Investment Corporation. That's the Chinese government. They own 9% of my water supplier. 5.4% belongs to Australians. 5% belongs to another Canadian outfit. And 2.2% belongs to the Dutch. So that's 77%. I think possibly of the other 23%, some might also be foreign owned, but it may be British owned. I don't know. So 77% of my water supply is owned by foreigners all over the world, and they frankly haven't got a lot of interest, I don't think, in the quality of my water or how my sewage is treated. I think their main interest is probably in what sort of dividends they're going to get, and they must be very happy with the dividends. Over 1.4 billion is quite a lot of dividends. And of course, these water companies they've actually used as security all the infrastructure and so on, because they borrowed billions and billions and billions on the backs of this. And it really does seem quite odd. And I thought to myself, it's a bit like, supposing you've got a house and you've paid for your house. You've got an income just about making ends meet, but you're not really. You could do with a bit more money. So you think, well, I know what I'll do. I'll sell the roof to a guy in China. So you sell your roof to a guy in China, and you say to him, well, I'll rent it back off you, but you look after it, won't you? And he says, oh yeah, I'll look after your roof. Don't worry about that. Yeah. And so you start paying more rent for your roof, and then a year or two down the line, you find that you need some more money. So you think, oh, I don't know. I'll sell the plumbing to some guy in Canada. And you say to him, oh look, I'll rent it back off you, but you will look after the pipes, won't you, if anything goes wrong and so on. And he says, oh yeah, sure. And then you sell off a bit more of the house, and eventually you find that you're in a situation where 77% of your house, which was yours, you're now renting off different people in other countries who couldn't give a fig about your house, couldn't give a toss. All they want to know is, are you going to pay your rent for the roof, your rent for the plumbing and so on? This is utter insanity. And that's where we all are. And that's almost certainly why all these water companies, especially now we've left the EU, they're able to just tip all the sewage in the rivers and the seas. And we've all seen it. It's an international, worldwide disgrace that our rivers are and our seas are so polluted with sewage. It's absolutely, utterly disgusting. I think the rest of the world must be absolutely horrified, and I can't wait for the French or the Dutch or the Belgians to start suing us for our sewage washing up on their shores. I mean, it's just utterly disgusting. But the government are fine with it. Oh, they're fine. So the other thing, I just want to, just in passing, actually, talking on this question of utilities being owned by foreigners, our railways are also owned mostly by foreigners, mostly by, I think, other European railway companies like the German state railway and the Italian state railway and the Dutch state railway. They all own our railways now. And I just looked up a table the other day of the cost of rail transport in Europe, throughout Europe, the whole Europe. And let me give you an example. I wanted to go to Brighton the other day. Return to Brighton is £43 plus a booking fee of £139, £44. It's an hour journey, hour and a minute or something. And if you want to go first class, of course, it's £86, very expensive. But £43 to go to, it's cheaper. It costs you £27 to drive. In Germany, they've got a ticket at the moment, a travel card, and you buy the travel card. It's almost exactly the same price as a day return to Brighton. Almost exact same price. It's €49, and with that you can travel on any railway, any bus service, any public transport service for the whole of Germany. Thousands and thousands of miles of tracks all over Germany for the same price as a day return to Brighton. But it lasts a whole month. For the same price as a return to Brighton, you can travel on the German railways, all German public transport, for a month. And anyway, on this list, I've got a list here of 30 countries in Europe and how much it costs per mile to go by train. And for example, I can say that in Italy it's 14 pence a mile. In Germany it's 19 pence a mile. In France it's very expensive, it's 29 pence a mile. The UK right at the top, 55 pence a mile. But you see, we've got shareholders to pay, haven't we? All the shareholders need their dividends, and they don't really care how much we pay. If you need the train, you need the train. Pay the price. This is a terrible mess. A terrible mess. I mean, I think at least with the railways, there's a possibility of not renewing their licences as they come up for regular review, and as is happening with the Transpennine Railway right now. But I mean, as far as the electricity, gas, and water, I mean, the cost of renationalising would be horrendous. But this is just another aspect, another thing that drags our economy down. The fact that we've sold off anything that's worth having. I mean, I think if the government could sell the air, they'd sell it and rent it back. And obviously the NHS is the next thing to be sold. I mean, there will be nothing left to sell soon. But anyhow, the last thing I wanted to talk about was the favourite to take over the leadership of the Conservative Party, because there already are rumours about a bit of a rebellion against Sunak. People are very cross about this business with these all these 2,600 EU laws that we're supposed to get rid of by the end of the year. And now they've realised that it was absolute madness. Apart from being an insane idea, there just wasn't time anyway. And so they've scaled it back, and they're only getting rid of 400 or something. And so a lot of backbenchers, a lot of the nutters, the crazies and the ERG and so on, are objecting. And so there's a talk of a rebellion. And the bookies are running a book on who should take over from Sunak if he goes. Now, in third place is Penny Mordaunt. Now, she's there, I think, probably because she held a sword up for an hour in the coronation, and so that's obviously makes her an outstanding person to lead the country. In second place is the person who is responsible for everything that's happened, who destroyed this country, who destroyed our economy, the person who is clearly dishonest, the person who's waiting the results of an inquiry which may result in him being forced to stand down as an MP, and that is, of course, Boris Johnson. Now, as far as the bookies' favourite, the red-hot favourite to be the next leader of the Conservative Party in the event that Sunak is deposed, someone who is quite extraordinary. Now, I used to think when Patel was Home Secretary that it's very difficult to imagine anybody being more unpleasant and more sadistic and more or lacking empathy more than she did. A truly horrible woman. And then along came Braverman, who I think is even worse. They're both very similar women. I think they both have similar issues, that are sort of confidence issues, I think, whereby they have to overcompensate by being extremely unpleasant. And I thought when Braverman came, I thought, well, that is as bad as it can get. It cannot get any worse than that. And yet, the woman who is expected to become leader, if Sunak goes, is far worse than both of them. And I speak, of course, of Kemi Badenoch, a truly repulsive woman. And she had to come to the House of Commons rather reluctantly on Thursday afternoon in order to answer questions concerning the fact that the government were going to get rid of 2,600 pieces of EU legislation by Christmas. And they'd obviously realised that not only was this absolutely insane, but there wasn't time to do so, and that they could only be able to get rid of 400 pieces of legislation. Of course, this has made the ERG extremely unhappy, very cross, and they wanted to question her. Now, she herself is extremely right-wing. She's very much ERG sympathiser, one would have thought. She's quite young. She's 43 years old. She's only been in Parliament for 6 years rather. And she's only been a cabinet minister for 6 months. She had a few junior ministerial positions before that, but that is considered sufficient for her to become the next leader. Now, when she came to the Commons, she got told off by the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, for announcing policy in the Daily Telegraph instead of in Parliament, and she responded with sarcasm. And Lindsay Hoyle is a reasonably mild-mannered sort of guy, and I have never seen him get angry, but he was absolutely incandescent. He was so annoyed with this woman. How dare she He actually said to her, "Do you know who you're speaking to? How dare she come to Parliament and patronise the Speaker?" After that, she gave a sort of rather grudging response, of a sort of grudging apology, which wasn't really an apology. And then she proceeded to answer questions from about another 15 or 20 MPs on both sides of the House, and in just about every single question she responded with condescension and being patronising and insulting. It was quite an extraordinary display of rudeness and stupidity. Clearly the woman's pretty stupid, but so overconfident and full of herself. Clearly, as I say, she's got issues just like Patel and Braverman. I think they're all children of immigrants, and that's why they're so anti-immigrant and so right-wing. But the idea of her becoming Prime Minister, I mean, is just so absurd. And I think it just goes to underline, the madness of the situation we're in now. We have a government, as I started off saying, no idea what to do, dishonest, incompetent. Every day we hear about different ministers that are making a few quid or a few 100,000 on the side with various contracts and introductions and all the rest of it. Utterly corrupt, utterly inept, got no idea what to do. And sadly, and I'm sorry to say this, and I know I should lose lots of subscribers if I say it, I don't think Labour have got much of a clue either. I think they just want to carry on with the same old thing, but need just do it better. And again, as I said right at the beginning, unless someone is prepared to seriously tackle the economy and seriously address the fact that all of our worries, really, all of our problems really stem from leaving the EU, until that happens, we're just going to go down and down and down. And I do rather fear that we may have to hit absolute rock bottom before people do come to their senses. But anyway, that's what I think about it. And if you watch this far, thank you very much indeed. And so until next time, bye for now.